Hello again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with myself, Hydra. Today we're going to be continuing the lore of Necromunda in part 2 of our guild, clan and house video. We have a few guilds left to go. And once again, thank you for stopping on by my little corner of the internet. Any likes, comments, feedback down below is all much appreciated. The series shall continue, and hopefully by the end of this we'll have a good little corner of the internet dedicated to the intricate nitty-gritty of Necromunda lore. Now, without any further ado, let's get this show on the road and talk about guilds. Now, as you may have recalled during the previous video, we had just finished touching upon the Mercator Pallidus, or that is to say, the Corpse Guild. Today we shall be moving on to the Mercator Sanguius, or the Slave Guild. And it would probably come as no surprise that, given the grim, dark nature of this future, that hive cities would trade with goods just as readily as they would trade with people. And those that are not fortunate enough to be born into the service of one of the clan houses may find themselves simply being a serf. Unfortunately, this would come with no more rights than a mere servitor. They're bought and sold by millions, sometimes even claimed as the spoils of war. Ownership of them could even quite easily change hands without the slave even knowing, for entire manufactorums would come with their workers included. Quote, "The rattle of chains and cages heralds the arrival of the Slave Guild, its agents always carrying hefty lengths of chain or complex shackled webs with which to transport their goods. When a ganger is sold to the guilders, it is to the slavers they go, the guild specialising in finding the right buyer for such merchandise, whether it is working in the forge, fighting in the pits, or sold to an uphiver as a curiosity." End quote. And for those familiar with the details of House Goliath, and if you are not, rest assured we shall delve into sufficient depth in forthcoming videos. But House Goliath has a certain propensity towards violence and gladiatorial combat, and therefore will have to deal most frequently with the Slavers Guild, if they wish to see their champions reach the very arenas. Pit slaves are generally a very valuable commodity in most hive cities, each one being augmented with cyber weaponry, psycho-conditioning, and extensive combat training, and with that a degree of community forms to watch these bloodbaths or just mere executions. And naturally, the guild will be there to take their cut. And now we shall move to the Mercator Gelt, or the Guild of Coin. And in order to elaborate on their trade, I would first highlight that individuals born within a hive city who are not members of, say, a merchant guild or a particular house would not have the freedom to move between the various levels or perhaps even sectors of a hive city, let alone dare step outside with an aim to joining an ashen train and travelling to another city. For the freedom of movement within a hive structure is reserved almost exclusively for the merchant guilds, for it is via their observations and occasional interventions that the quotas of the various manufactorums and various industries would be met. Quote, "Masters of coin forge keys for the clan house convoys, each token a powerful seal allowing passage past the many way stations, ash gates and hive fortresses through which a convoy must pass. The key is a potent symbol of the Guild of Coin, and each master carries with them staves, rings and shackles hung with keys of all shapes and sizes, each one cast from the steel of a different hive or stone of a different road, and granting rights of passage for the guilder who bears it." End quote. And now we shall move to the Mercator Lux, or the Electro Guild, sometimes referred to as the Grid. As you may recall within Hive Primus, they are the primary adversary or direct competition of the Prometheum Guild, but given some less than recent conflicts, the Electro Guild within Hive Primus at least has been driven to that of the Spire, meaning anything below will be running almost exclusively on Prometheum generators. Of course, this is only made possible by the rich promethium deposits surrounding the hive cluster. But within Hive Primus, the electroguild is still present, drawing energy directly from the various generators surrounding the geothermal heat sink, as well as some energy drawn directly from sunlight itself within the spire. The guilders measure out every kilojoule and every lumen, ensuring efficient transmission of power and light from source to destination. So if one wishes to maintain any degree of warmth within the outer circles of a hive, it is via the electroguild that coin must be passed. Their agents in particular are somewhat easier to spot than that of the other merchant houses. Being clad in luminous garbs and carrying flickering electro-lanterns, they are the heralds of the grid. Their entourage is lighting up the underhive, like stars traversing a night sky. And it would be well worth keeping in mind that if you were to fall out of favour with such a guild, you would find your entire hub block perhaps void of the very heat needed to prevent it turning into a freezer. And similar to the Electro Guild, the Air Guild, that is to say the Mercator IMPERIUM, would find themselves in control of an equally valuable resource. As the name would imply, air would be the commodity of this particular guild, and every turbine, every ventilation shaft, every air refiner and every smoke vent within a hive city would be controlled by them. By their command, an entire sector of a hive could merely choke to death within minutes, or die slowly from breathing tainted air. Their agents, however, somewhat differ from those of the Electro Guild, at least in visibility, for they do not carry with them luminous items or powered objects, but instead something far more vicious with far more teeth. If you are not familiar with the many-mouthed beast known as the Zeph, it is a small and vicious creature drawn to fresh air that will squeak and growl when it finds a pure vein of oxygen, but with that using the oxygen to grow to a large size, becoming a floating monstrosity. And the Air Guild enjoys the poetic irony of having air thieves torn apart by packs of Zephs. For much like the other guilds, they have their own particular ways in dealing with those that would steal their very precious commodity. The final guild on our list today is the Iron Guild, otherwise known as the NECROMUNDA. As the name would imply, this is somewhat central to the history of the planet. Originally founded 15,000 years ago, NECROMUNDA, as it was known at the time, Arrhenius Prime, was a mining colony, primarily suited to the mining of iron. But 15,000 years is plenty of time for even the most colossal of planets to exhaust its natural minerals. That being said, there are still mining operations primarily carried out by House Orlok within the lower levels of the hive cities. As well as this, there are certain iron repurposing plants, as I would refer to them as, run by House Goliath, otherwise referred to as megaforges. This is where a large portion of the previous industrial machinery and tools are smelted down and repurposed back into goods to be sent out toward the Imperium, and being built upon millennia of previous civilizations, there is no shortage of scrap to be found. But that being said, there is still some small semblance of mineral wealth to be found within the actual planet's surface. There is an entire continent-spanning ridge of mountainous-like terrain, otherwise known as the Spoil, and this is where a degree of mineral wealth is still to be found. Some occasionally hauled out by these Ashen expeditions, and then sold on within the iron markets. The guild, of course, will take a cut from all iron that is sold within the hive city, and every iron entering the city itself will be molecular branded, ensuring that they never miss an opportunity to take their cut. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for stopping on by once more to another lore video on Necromunda. It's been enjoyable as always, and a very fascinating journey for me learning what there is to learn about this great IP. Looking forward to the forthcoming video game, as well as the forthcoming roleplay game that I will be running. It is a home brew, but it should be fun. I look forward to seeing you down in the comments below and in the next video. Take care.